Runick Fallen of Albaz. Now that's the combination of cards that I didn't think that I would get the chance to see today. And of course, we got more of your standard metagame competitors out here, including Evil Eye. Don't beg the 30% of you that have not smashed the living crap out of that subscribe button. Smash it so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. Yes, that is right. We're going to be looking at the Kitty CS. Yeah, the names for these events out of the OCG are actually kind of hilarious to me. Winning the event was none other than Runick Fallen of Albaz, and that's a combination of things. I would love to see this deck actually come to the TCG and be something that would actually get the chance to work. Like, it is just such a convoluted pile of cards that it's quite ingenious, actually. We also had Purely out here. When isn't it, you know, an event without Purely actually getting the chance to do something? Oh, the answer is Purely will always be here. We also had Kashtira actually showing up and doing things. Kashtira, even in its neutered state, has continued to do something. And of course, we had Superheavy Samurai. The how many good monster effects can you actually pull off in turns? Pass on over to top deck list. Winning the event is this concoction, as we're going to call this. This is Runick with We've Lost a Bet is like the only way that I can functionally understand this deck. I see that we do have the Rainbow Magician in here. That way you can actually just annoy all of the Superheavy Samurai players in the world, as they effectively just can't play the game. And then of course we have that Grasslook Screener to facilitate a relatively large dump engine to amass a large amount of spells into the graveyard to start like a draw package. Is that what we're trying to do here? Because looking at this pile of cards, this is very much the pile that I think a madman would bring to an event. But you know what? This is what gets hopes and dreams going. Ideas like this are really what gets the chance to shine. And I think that is actually kind of incredible at the end of the day. So I'll take this. I want to try something similar to this actually in the TCG just to see, hey, you know, it actually works. Next up here is Purely. Oh boy, you know, this is one of the first times that I see that we are playing the second Purely trap card in here so that you can actually do things. Now, most of the former builds that we've seen have only played one of the Purely, or excuse me, two Purely Leap, zero of the trap. So to see that we're kind of heading towards the idea here of wanting to try out multiple traps, I think is good. Obviously, Rainbow Bridge of Salvation to be your entire, you know, filtering slash draw package, aka, you know, go toggle for my field spell, get the bad Cobalt Eagle into my hand, and then that way I can, you know, go discard this, and then you're like, cool, I'm off to the races now. We can actually do our thing. We're still playing Double Nor. I see that we're playing a little bit more of a Sky Striker package in here because we're playing one Widow Anchor. Interesting little options and things that this deck can kind of bring to the table overall now. So this is, once again, in moving with an innovation. Next up here we have Kashtira, Dollar Money Bills the deck. And of course, we got Necro Valley in here. Yeah. Necro Valley actually now has another multi-purpose option, getting the chance to tell your opponent, no, you're not allowed to play the game. Planet Pathfinder has also moved into this deck as like the giant mainstay for it. Good old Planet Pathfinder, search for your field spells. You know, as soon as you need Necro Valley, you have access to it. Most of your Kashtira monsters look like they're straight one-ups now. You still will see Theosis and Raceloth and actually infinite birth value as well for this deck. I see that we are citing the Exceed Encores as well. Appointers and other good stuff. Yeah, we can... The fact that Cheng Ying is starting to come up with this deck, be able to make level 10s, is actually hilarious at the end of the day. So, deck feels incredibly strong. I like what I'm seeing, and I hope that we will continue to see other variants of this do well. And then, of course, Superheavy Samurai. I say this every single time I look at these decks, but, you know, the fact that you do have Scythe in here, you love to see it. Also, you can search for Stein in order to make Exterio. I mean, chances are your opponent's not going to be able to break an Exterio. Exterio, infinite mill. I mean, congratulations, you have an infinite mill machine for your deck. You play a whole 2 spells in your deck, things, Pendulum Scales. And, of course, we are seeing, you know, the larger amounts of sided Cyframes down here as well. The fact that they're able to extend out, they're like, oh, hey, now I can, you know, play Cyframes to negate other things other than monsters. It's incredibly useful for this deck. And of course, I mean, you've just so much synergy in this pile of just 40 months. I actually think I'm incredibly happy to see that this is actually a viable strategy again from way back in the day. All right, we're going to pass on over so you can see how Tournament 2 went. Our second round of madness here actually brings us to Evil Eye winning the event. And you know, Evil Eye versus Purely for a finals. I had to do a double take when I was looking at this because I was like, there's no way that Evil Eye and Purely are actually duking it out. Well, yeah, it actually happened here. And Purely ended up getting second place, getting edged out by Evil Eye of all things. Now, we also had Unchained here on the back end of the wrap-up as well. And then we also had Vanquished Soul. Now, if you're kind of like looking at this, you're like, wow, you know, only one of these seems like, you know, a pretty standard metagame contender. And I would agree with you. Actually, 3 of these decks are not like the other, you know. But Unchained has had a decent amount of come up this format. I think that there's been a decent grind for it. And Vanquished Soul, I think this is the second appearance that I've seen for this deck actually showcasing some power. All right, we're going to pass on over to the top deck list. Winning the event was none other than Evil Eye, sporting off 1 copy of Skill Drain. Yes, that's right. You know, even with limitations and stripping off one of the most power cards that this deck formerly loved having access to, it doesn't care. I mean, we're also playing Radion, the I don't give a crap kaiju, and the extra deck kind of just looks like a massive joke down here. I mean, it's all just Pot of Extravagance targets so that you can kind of do your thing. I mean, and then of course you can kind of climb on up and do other things, but your whole deck's aspect is your opponent's going to set up one monster, you're going to pop it off with the Evil Eye, and you're like, all right, cool, well, you know, I did my job. Like, I've gridlocked you into a control game. Now you're not going to be able to really do anything. And that's what you want to see with a deck like this, is those control aspects are going to get the chance to shine. And of course, yeah, we can actually play Eradicator Epidemic Virus down here. How many times is it going to take for this to actually get through? Well, the answer is a lot. Next up is Purely, aka let's go ahead and play Rainbow Bridge of Salvation and laugh at the opponent as we watch the massive toggling begin. Yep, I am not surprised to see that Rainbow Bridge of Salvation has maintained its dominance over this deck, because honestly, the whole big thing that you're going to care about with Rainbow Bridge of Salvation is free discard outlet. Oh, cool. Now I get my field spell. Now I get a, you know, Cobalt Eagle out of my deck. Now I can go discard the Cobalt Eagle for an additional Purely spell. It literally is just you clear out some, you know, bad cards, get to 1 good card, and you're kind of off to the races. I still see that we are playing the IP Masquerena in here, which is pretty standard. We are playing a Thrust to be able to get into the talents. We're not main decking the Dimensional Barrier. You do see that the build is citing the 1-dimensional barrier down there, so this deck will be able to kind of capitalize and get access to that. Shout out to Unicorn being able to be made off of the IP Masquerena, which actually is a relevant card that they do end up making in this matchup. And then, of course, we had Unchained here. Now, Unchained getting their new line of support actually turned this deck into a actual relatively cool concept now. Actually, updating the consistency on this actually mattered a little bit. See that we do have access to a main deck to Dark Hole here, so we can kind of clear up a field, really if need be. Okay. See that we do have Exceed Encores down on the side deck. Nobody wants to deal with Purely. Alright, you're going to find as many ways as you can to try to handle the situation so you don't have to. Alright, and Exceed Encore is going to give you that beautiful, beautiful chance to do so. Honestly, outside of that, I mean, the rest of the Unchained core feels very, very, very standard in terms of, you know, metagame development. And I think that we're going to continue to see, you know, more of this generalized force and back and forth with the deck. Alright, next up here, we also have Vanquished Soul back at it again. You know, Vanquished Soul, for the mid-range control aspect that the deck has going for it, is still an incredibly powerful monster, alright? I do see we are playing Parallel Exceed in here, which is kind of cool. We're playing double, there can only be one. That's kind of interesting. We are playing 2 copies of the Link 1 for the deck, so we're going to be able to toggle through and do a lot of the standard power things that you want to be able to do for this. Honestly, outside of that, that's all we really got for these decks. Kind of looking through everything today, it has been very, very interesting to see how things have gone. So what do you guys think? Please leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. See your beautiful faces back here later today, guys. Peace out. Patrons! Thank you!
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.